All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to my first ever YouTube live. Today's sessions, as you can see, I'm talking about vRealize automation and the ITSM plugin that basically integrates it's an integration between vRealize automation and ServiceNow platform. Like I mentioned in my invite initially on LinkedIn, this is going to be really me going through the manual step by step to show you guys how you can configure the application and do that integration where you're able to import all the vRealize automation catalog items in the ServiceNow platform, and then the ServiceNow users then can use these catalog items to perform various operations in ServiceNow, including deployment of virtual machine services and also applying day two operations as well. So without further ado, let's actually get started, and I'm going to change to my desktop here. All right. So I did copy all the links into the description below. So if you guys want to look at the application and where you install it from, or you want to look at the PDF file that I'm actually using here, I'm also put a link for the actual VMware documentation for the ITSM plugin. So there's a few places where you can access the documentation. So starting with the, so what do we have here? I have a developer instance. This is basically, if you're a user of ServiceNow today, you're probably aware that you can, provision your own ServiceNow instance if you just simply go to developer.servicenow.com and basically have an instance that could be available to you for testing purposes. The other thing is we have also in my home lab, I have an instance of vRealize automation. This is version 8.4.1. So the main thing I want to make sure here, and we'll talk about this more deeply as we actually integrate with as we go with the documentation. So we'll see here. So the main thing here is that we have several blueprints that are published and entitled to a project within the service broker. You can see that here I have access to 10 items or catalog items, whether to provision an application or provision a VM, etc., or execute X as a service, whatever the case may be from blueprint that you've created in your VRA and you want to publish and make that available in ServiceNow. So let's go ahead and bring up the guide. First, you'll see in the description I have actually this is the store. If you go to store.service.com, you can simply search for VMware vRealize Automation ITSM application. You'll see the 8.3.1, which is the recent release right now. We are about to release 8.4 at some point in July timeframe, or probably end of July. But you can see here a summary of what this plugin or application does, what the features are, and really the plugin here, as it says in the features, it's going to enable the integration between VRA and ServiceNow platform to provide the ability for ServiceNow users to access the vRealize automation catalog and resources within the ServiceNow portal. And that's the idea of what we're doing here today. As you can see here, you can install the guide from here directly. Also, we do have on the docs.vmware.com a section for configuring the vRealize automation for ServiceNow ITSM application. This is pretty much the same thing, but one is in the docs format that you might be accustomed to, and the other one is just a PDF file that you can download, put it on your iPad or any external monitor, etc., to go through it. I'm going to be using the PDF, so the links for these, for both the service store or the store.service.now and the release note and the installation guide are in the description below, like I mentioned. So let's close these tabs so we can bring up the main things here. I have, like I mentioned, a developer instance. And I've already launched it, or it's active right now. The first thing we need to do is at some point we need to reset the instance password because I simply don't remember it. But let's go ahead and do that. And also, before we start the installation or the, we're going to go through the documentation like I mentioned. All right, so first thing first, now that I have the developer instance, usually you get a password, an email with the password. I don't have access to the email right now at this moment. So what I can do, I can just simply reset the instance password here. And I'm going to basically right away go in and change the password. Thank you, G-Man. I'm looking at the chat here, so if you guys have any questions or anything, don't be shy. So I'm going to copy the password that was given to me, and I'm simply going to now start the portal. And then the first thing I want to do is basically change the password to my whatever from the generated password, basically. All right, so system administrator, things are a bit slow here. So change the password. This is the password that I have from the auto-generated, and then I'm gonna put my own little password here. And I'm gonna just change the password so we can log in with the system administrator into this instance. Another thing is, and this is just a habit of mine in terms of what I usually like to do is, let's wait on this first to complete. All right. You will notice that these developer instances are a tiny bit slower than the actual production instances. Wow, this is really taking a long time. All right, so it's completed, change password success. Another thing I like to do is in the profile, really right away do your time zone. So if you're looking at logs and anything, you know, the time zone is relative to where you are. So I'm in Canada, Eastern, so I'm gonna change that and then hit update. All right, so now that we want to change the password, let's test it out. So now if I log out and log in with admin and with my password, we have no problem accessing the developer instance that we have. Now, one of the ways that ServiceNow integrates with your on-prem infrastructure is through the mid server. And I do have all the steps how to set up the mid server. Actually, it's a really an old blog on my site. So if you go to vmwarelab.org, you will see under the ITSM plugin section, way back when we were doing an ITSM plugin for VRA 7.3. So if you click here and if you go scroll down to phase 1 or stage 1, sorry, you'll see a whole section here around configuring or how to configure the mid server if you haven't done that before. The server is already installed on my machine. So all I really have to do here is just reinstantiate that connection. And to do that, the instance name did not change. I simply reset it and wiped the instance, the developer instance, so we can start from scratch today. Yeah, so if you want, I'll add that link into the description below as well if you guys need it, but you can simply go to vmwarelab.org, go to the ITSM plugin, and go down to the bottom blog around the ITSM 3.0, which was a few years back. All right, so I'm gonna close that. Just wanted to point that out. So the first thing we need to do is really do the connection, like I said, between the mid server that I have here on this machine where I'm running this and the instance. So first, I'm going to go to System, Security, just so I can access the users and groups, and any menu that I try to or interact with when I'm doing this, I like to add it to my favorites. So if I need at any time I need to go back to it, I can just hit my favorites here and get access to it. So the first thing we need to do is add a user for my for the account that's going to be used by the mid server. So to do that, we're going to click New, and here the ID that I use is _system_MID. So I'm just going to copy the ID into all the fields here, and then I'm going to provide a password for this user. I always again go back and set your time zone. Don't forget that. So I'm going to submit, and now that the account is created for the mid server, I'm going to look it up. So system_MID, and here it is. It's listed under users. All I have to do now, give it the mid server role, so the mid server can use that account to connect to my ServiceNow instance. Okay, so we'll go roles, we'll hit edit, and we'll simply search for MID here. MID server, and here we go. We've added it to the role list, save it. Now the server is already configured with that system account. So if we actually go into my command prompt, and we'll go to mid server, VMware Lab, dir, and then all I have to do is stop the service and then simply start it again. So what is that going to do is going to use the configuration XML file, which I'll show you here. So if I go back to C drive, I go to my mid server, and you will see this XML config file in terms of all the configuration, and you can see in this config file, and of course this file is going to be available to you once you install the mid server and you go through the stages documented in my blog. So here you'll see the username that I created, system_mid, and of course the password is encrypted, which is the same password I used. And then the name of what this mid server is going to be named in the ServiceNow portal. So these, when you stop and start the service, it's going to use the configuration mentioned in this file here. Now, one more thing to check. So we restarted the service. So I can go in simply to my services.msc. And I want to make sure that my ServiceNow mid server is running. As you can see, it is running here. Now, what we can do is in the menu, simply search for MID server. And here is the server here. Again, because I'm interacting with this, I'm going to add it to my favorites. So if I click my server, here we go. So that connection is made, but we're not done yet. As you can see here, the validated, it says no. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the mid server, which is on this machine in my home lab, control-center@vmware.local, which is my domain. Drop the menu. I'm going to simply validate. So basically authenticating that, yes, I am aware of this server, let it connect. And here there are a couple of other settings that you can also set from a selection criteria. Obviously, this is just a lab, so I'm allowing all application, all capabilities, all IP ranges, etc. I'm going to hit save. This is going to take like 30 or so seconds to make. So, but what we're looking for here is basically, as you can see, validating. Status is down right now. What we're looking for is green across the status validated. And as you can see here, I'm using Paris. We do support Quebec today, but Quebec have added something around TLS, and the Met server would need to use that to be able to make the connection. So I'll talk about that. It's actually mentioned in the documentation. So let's refresh again by simply hitting the filter, and here we go. Status is up, validated yes, and we're good to go. So what that means is our Met server that is going to channel all the API calls to VRA from ServiceNow is connected and authenticated by ServiceNow, and we're good to go. Now, at this moment, what I can do is basically bring up my PDF and just simply go through the documentation from now and onwards. Again, so an overview of the Vra ITSM application, as you can see, is the VMware vRealize Automation for ServiceNow ITSM application is an integration between Vra and the ServiceNow platform. The VMware vRealize Automation or the ServiceNow ITSM application imports the VRA catalog items in ServiceNow platform. So we bring them into the ServiceNow or make them available in the ServiceNow platform. After that, the ServiceNow users can use these catalog items to perform various operations in ServiceNow, including the deployment of virtual machines or whatever these blueprints are doing, like deploying multi-tier application maybe, to various other day 2 operations applied on both the deployment level and the VM level, and we'll take a look at more on that. All right, so let's take a look at the installation prerequisite and expand that. We have the compatibility matrix, and as you can see here from a compatibility matrix is that the ITSM 8.3.1, the one that we are installing today, is supported by 8.2, VRA 8.2, VRA 8.3, and Vra Cloud. Yes, it does not mention VRA 8.4, and this is actually what I am integrating this plugin. So there are not a lot of changes from an architecture and components, if you will, but what that means is that has not been tested. I've actually tested this a couple of times, and there's absolutely no problem, but this is unofficial of me saying that. Again, Vra Cloud, Vra 8.2, Vra 8.3, and in our instance and sessions today, we're doing 8.4.1, which is the release that we've released about a few weeks ago. On the ServiceNow side, from a releases perspective, as you can see, minimum we support New York, Orlando, Paris, and Quebec. Today, for this session, I'm using Paris. So Paris with Vra 8.4.1 and the ITSM application 8.3.1. All right. So as you can see, first thing in the here it tells you from an installation prerequisites that you need the installation of the Met server, and we've already done that, and we've seen that our server is validated and connected. So and it's online. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take this and put it on the side, and then simply take so I can just have them side by side. Hopefully that's okay and not too crowded. First thing first, it's asking us here to install the user criteria scoped API plugin. The user criteria scoped API plugin enables you to create, modify, delete, and let me just go here. The user criteria records using scripts. So this is a needed plugin that the ITSM is dependent on. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go to and search for system definitions in the search on the top here. Again, there are a couple of things that we're going to interact with in system definitions. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to basically add to favorites all the things that I know I'm going to interact with from my previous experience. So we're going to need, as you will see me going through the documentation, we're going to need the tables. We're going to need the choice list. We're going to need the, let's go say here, script includes. And I think we're going to need also one more thing, which I don't, plugins. All right, hopefully that's all of it, but if not, we will go there. But the idea why I did that is I don't have to go in every time and search for system definition and go through this over and over. So now if I go to my favorites, they're all there. So the first thing we need to do is go to the plugin so we can install the user criteria scoped API plugin. So let's go to plugins. The all application is going to show as it says here, and then we're going to search for the user criteria scoped API. In here, there's a search on the top. So I'm simply going to paste that in, and it automatically is going to show me the user criteria scoped and the option to install it. So I'm going to hit install. And after that, I'm going to click activate. So we'll give it a few seconds. %99 complete. Awesome. So we have a success, and then we can close and reload the form. Great. So here you go. Step one is completed. The second one, we need to enable application access. And the vRealize automation for ServiceNow, the ITSM application, requires the application access from the ServiceNow tables for it to work. So the ITSM application need to do CRUD operations like create, read, update, and delete the records in the tables using scripts. And we need to make sure that we give it that permission. So what do? We go again to system definitions. I've already saved tables. So if I click on tables, usually you would again search for system definition and look for the tables. Like I showed before, I've added them to my favorite here too, just for easy access. So the first table that we need to update is the question choice. So I'm going to copy that, put it in the name on the search here, and find the question choice. Notice that the name of the table might be different from the label. So even though this is called question underscore choice, it is called here question underscore choice, but that's not true for all the tables. So click on the link of that table. What we want to do here, according to the documentation, is that to go to the application access tab on this and make sure that the CRUD application here can create, read, update, and delete. So can create, read, update, and delete boxes of the table, so they're all checked, and then hit update. Perfect. Now we move on to the next table, sc underscore cat underscore item underscore category. So copy that. We're going to go here in the search. We're going to paste that. And again, here the name is slightly different. So you see here sc underscore cat, but it says catalog item category. So this is just something that you need or you want to pay attention to. Click on the link for that table. Again, we need read, create, update, and delete. So all four. So read, create, update, and delete. And then we hit update and we move on. Third one, item underscore option underscore new. So let's go ahead and go here and search for that. And this is a big example of what I was saying. Item underscore option underscore new, the label is variable. So basically your focus would be the name of the table, not the label, just FYI. We go to variable, and again on that item option new, we need read, create, update, and delete. So all four. So 3 is checked, but the fourth one is not. So we're going to do that and update. And then we move on, I think, to the last table. So there's 4 tables in total. And we'll copy this one here, sc underscore cat underscore item underscore user underscore criteria underscore mtom. And let's search for that. Here we go. That's the table. Here is its link. Click on its link, which is the label. And for this one, we need read, create, and update only. There's no delete. So read, create, update. We're not going to check delete, and I'm going to hit update to provide the permissions. All right, so that's step 2, updating application table access, or enable application access, basically on 4 different tables. Moving on, this here now we're talking about installing the configuration management for scoped apps plugin. So we're back to the plugins section. I'll come that, but what is this for is that it imports, it's needed to import all the deployments and resources from VRA to ServiceNow application. The configuration management for scoped apps plugin enables creating, updating, deleting records in the CMDB. And that's what the apps or the ITSM plugin is going to use to update the CMDB when we actually create a VM. Okay, so let's see the instructions. So you have to be system administrator, which we are. We have to go system definitions and plugins again. Okay, this would have been nice if the manual had these 2 steps again in the same place, so I don't have to get out of the plugins and go somewhere else and then go back to it. But we have them saved in our favorites, so we can easily access them, access these this menu, and we're gonna go ahead and search for configuration management for scoped apps. You will see that this is already installed, as you can see here by default, but this is just a step to make sure, because we don't know, you know, how your instance is configured, but it looks like this configuration management for scoped apps is installed by default, but in case and for whatever reason it wasn't, you want to make sure it's installed. So there's really nothing for us to do here except verifying that the configuration management for scoped apps CMDB is installed. Awesome. Moving on, now we're gonna go and create a data source choice in ServiceNow. The ITSM application uses identification and reconcile engine, which requires to have discovery source elements for the application. It's a requirement. So here we need to be a system administrator, and also the application scope must be set to global. One really pro tip here is what you can do is on the ITSM or on the ServiceNow page, when you're logged into System Administrator, click the cog here, the settings, and then hit Developers and show Application Picker in the header. This is going to be very, very convenient for us. And what it's going to allow us is to actually see, let's say, let me bring this up here. It'll show us this menu here. It's going to show you what context or what application you're actually changing things in. And right now we're changing it in the global, and you can see these are all the application that this instance has access to, right? And you will see there's some situation where we have to be in a specific context when we're doing these changes, okay? All right, so let's bring that back to the side. All right, so we made sure that we're set to global. And next we need to go to system definitions again. So again, I can go in and search for system definition here and look for the choice, which I happen to also add it to my favorites again. So I'm going to click on it. And here we're going to create a new one. So let's go ahead and create. And we're going to select the table field, the first one, and we're going to search for configuration item CMDB_CI. So if I go in here, luckily we have a search here because there's so many tables in this instance. So I'm going to simply paste that in here. And here we go. This is the one we want. We'll pick that up. It says here to also in the element text box, enter a value as discover_source. All right. This is the element. I want to make sure that when I paste, copy and paste, I don't have extra spaces because really that could, you know, ruin the entire thing. So you want to make sure that, you know, there's no extra spaces anywhere. Now for the label and the value mandatory fields, we need to put in this ITSM 8.x. Make sure when you copy this, don't copy the period at the end of the line. This is just a full stop. So paste this here and paste this here. Again, make sure that we don't have any extra spaces anywhere. And then we're good to go. 8.x, 8.x, and then hit submit. Here we go. And that's it. So that was the creating data source choice in ServiceNow. Well, everything we're doing right now is a requirement by the application, and all these configuration are actually we're doing in ServiceNow, in the ServiceNow instance. So they're mandatory, so the plugin actually can function. All right, scrolling down, we're going to now do the provide the script include access. The ITSM application or the ServiceNow provides JavaScript APIs for use within scripts running on the ServiceNow platform to deliver common functionality. The GSUtil is a class of shortcuts for common JavaScript routines, and then the ITSM application is required access to that GSUtil scripts. Usually, and it used to be that the GSUtil is only not configured for everything. So we want to make sure by going to system definitions, looking at script includes, which I think I've added it into my favorites. And then we want to search for GSUtil. Here is the link, and we'll click on it, and we want to make sure that it is set to all application scopes. I don't know, like in Paris or whatever the latest update was, they've actually flipped this already because I think it was a common task that you had to have. Because usually from my experience from dealing with multiple different ServiceNow editions is that it always was set by default to this application scope only, which is the global. And it wasn't set to all applications. So I actually had to go in and do this. But now, and since the latest release of Paris, it seems that it is there by default, but it doesn't really hurt to go in and make sure that this is set to all application scopes. So hit update and we move on. All right, so let's see where we are right now. If we go here, provide script access. This is where we were doing, and then I think that's it. All right. All right, so now we've done basically all the required steps for on the ServiceNow side. So that's the ServiceNow configuration side of things. And we had all the prerequisite taken care of. We still have not installed the ITSM application, which we will go into do now. Now, here is where it gets a little bit tricky. I don't have personally, or I don't own a production ServiceNow instance. That's why I use the developer.servicenow.com to test these plugins or to experience, if just simply because I don't really have access. You might have a dev access in your own organization where you can test things on, and a production access or a production instance of ServiceNow. So you have a dev and production, or maybe even three, like you might have dev, UAT, and production. In our case here, since I'm using these developer instances are owned by ServiceNow. All right, very, very key thing. They're not owned by me, they're owned by ServiceNow. Therefore, I cannot really go through the instruction mentioned here. But for any customer out there who owns their own production-based instances for dev or production, there are some prerequisites. So you would have to use the store.servicenow to be able to install the application. First, you add the application to your instance, and then you run the installation, which I'm gonna go through here in the documentation. But unfortunately, I will not be able to demo it. But what I will show you my workaround, and since I work for VMware, I have access to the application XML files that what the store.servicenow actually pushes down to your instance. So there are a few prerequisites according, really straightforward, super easy. You have to be the ServiceNow, you have to have access to the ServiceNow store, and this is what I don't have, because again, these developer instance is not owned by me, they're owned by ServiceNow. So I don't really have access to Service Store. You have to be the system administrator. Only the system administrator can actually access the ServiceNow store and use the high credentials to install the application. We've already done the user criteria. We've already done the CMDB plugin. It was already installed, and we already done the data source choice list. So basically, what we need to do is we need to go to the store.com, which is going to open this here. Basically, you're going to log in into your instance. Here, this is where you're going to provide your IDs, so your high credentials. But of course, this is not something that we're going to do here. After that, you're going to go in and log in into the ServiceNow as the system administrator, like we mentioned, and search for the ITSM application 8.3.1. So again, if we actually go here, let me make this bigger. You go into the store, you log in, which I'm not going to, and you simply search for the ITSM plugin. It's really insisting that I log in. Okay, log in different ID. So it's going to take us here. I don't have any ID here. I'm just simply going to go to the store. Let's see here, store.servicenow.com. All right, this is really weird. I don't know why it keeps asking me to log in. Simply probably because I'm already logged in. All right, let me this is simply because I'm already logged in, probably, this is my dev instance. Okay, so regardless, I think I have it here mentioned in my slides, just to give you a what you would have to go through. Okay, so when you log into ServiceNow with your high credentials, you're going to search for vRealize Automation ITSM application. You're going to find the 8.3, not 8.2. This is an older screenshot. And then simply click Manage Entitlement, and then select the ServiceNow instance to install your application, and simply hit Get here. When you get it, you'll log in with the high credentials, and you will say, here is the instance you want to deploy this to. Once that is done, now the application is available to you in the instance. So when you log into your, after you push it from the ServiceNow store, you're going to go log in into your ServiceNow. You're going to go to System Applications. You're going to search for all available applications, and then all. And then you're going to search for VMware vRealize Automation ITSM application, and then simply click Install with demo data. Very, very important point. Do not opt out of not installing demo data. I don't know why ServiceNow calls it demo data, but these are actually metadata needed by the ITSM plugin. If you do not install demo data, you will see strange things happening. One of them is like anything that you request, whether you populate the approval group, which we will talk about. Everything that you do in ServiceNow will require an approval. It's not supposed to be called demo data, but that's what ITSM calls it, or ServiceNow refers to it as demo data. So make sure you do select and install it with demo data. Very, very important point. Question in the chat from Richard Lunardi. Can we get the XML file via our own VMware TAM? If so, what do we ask for? Absolutely. If you go, please don't ask me to give you the XML file, because I can tell you from now, I cannot, and I cannot provide that XML file. But what you can do, reach out to your account team or TAM, like Richard was saying, and they will reach out to the cloud management specialist responsible of that region that you're in, or responsible of the company that you're part of, and they will definitely make sure they will be able to grant you access, and they will be able to send you the XML file, assuming that you're using that XML file on a developer instance. Because I can tell you from now, this XML file, if you have any issues down the line, you cannot call GSS and ask to open a support case, because not the supported way of doing things. This is completely on your own when you're trying to install the application. And hopefully this video kind of demonstrate how to actually use the XML file. But again, go through your TAM, go through account service, absolutely, and you can get access to it. All right, so let's get back here and go back to our documentation. So how am I going to do this? So I have access to the XML file, and so what we're going to do is we're going to install it, wait for it, and then we'll talk about, hey, what if I had an older version of ITSM? What do I do? Hold that thought. We'll do that. So to do that, so there is a menu called Retrieved Update Set. So I'm gonna use. So I'm gonna save this to my favorites. Again, just to have it. Anything that I touch for the plugin, I save it as a favorite, so I can go back to it and don't have to remember where it was or have to go back to the documentation. Retrieve update set, when I click on it, it gives me an option here to upload the update set from an XML file, which is the application really. And this is where I'm going to go in, choose my file, choose where it is located. Let's go Documents, ITSM.3. And here is the XML file that we're going to upload, which is very similar to what stored or pushing the application from the store are going to look like. So here it is. I'm going to upload it. It'll take a second. It is slow today for some reason, so bear with me. Okay, so here is the file. And what we want to do, the first thing we want to do is select the application, actually click on it, and we need to commit it. And then the reason we want to commit it is basically it's just another way of saying, yeah, this is the application I want to install. Now, once you click into the application that you just uploaded to ServiceNow, you need to click in it and set and click on Preview Update Set. This is going to go through everything that this XML file includes from configuration perspective, and ServiceNow is going to tell us whether this is good or bad, or if there's any errors, etc. All right. So 24%. This is going to take. So while this is taking a couple of minutes here, I want to talk about the update. So if you previously downloaded the VRA for ServiceNow ITSM application version 8.x, you have to be 8.x from ServiceNow store. You can update it to version 8.3.1 in your instance. And then there are some prerequisites here. You have to be the system administrator, of course, in ServiceNow. You have to deactivate all the scheduled jobs that the plugin created initially. So there's like 5 of them, so you have to disable them. And then you make sure that the criteria scoped API is installed, which we did. I know there are some of the stuff here is repetitive, but again, this is from an update. So you got to remember that, yeah, we've done that already. We've done the CMDB plugin as well. And then simply the data store as well as a requirement. And then if you're upgrading from ITSM 8.2.2 or earlier version, and facing the issue, the version on release, you must delete the catalog items for which you are facing the issue. I think this is specifically the 8.2.2. There's more information here, but overall, make sure that you really look at this section if you're upgrading from an older version of the ITSM 8.x. There was a version, or still there is a version for the VRA 7.x that's also available in the store for customers who still uses VRA 7.x. So that's a completely different thing. You will not be able to upgrade from 7.x ITSM to 8.x ITSM. That's not supported today. So this is only true if you're installing from an 8.x ITSM older plugin. The procedures are here. Unfortunately, I cannot, and the XML does not support upgrade. So in case, let's say, I have a new build for the XML, let's say the 8.4 came out and I need to test it, I cannot simply upgrade because I use the XML approach and not the service or store approach. So keep that in mind. You will not be able to, once the XML is installed, you would have to uninstall it and then install the new version or reset the instance and start with a new one. Okay, so this is all I really needed to talk about, and just making sure that page 14 and page 15 in the PDF has all the instructions for when you want to update your instance. Okay, let's go back here. Awesome. I know it says failed at 100%, but it's still awesome because, again, that's expected. You will see 8 errors. You will see 8 errors, and no matter what you do, this is expected. Why is it expected? Because when the developer team developed this application, these staples that are being referenced do not exist in your in the instance where we're installing this. So this is completely normal. All you have to do is accept a remote update on each and every error before we can proceed. So what I'm going to do here, that's 1, accept remote update, 2, accept remote update, 3, and so forth until we do them all. Again, the reason is that these constructs that it's referring to or looking for that it couldn't find, it's not in the instance where this plugin was developed. That's as easy. And of course, the store, when you push this from the store, that ServiceNow, you're not going to see these kind of errors because it's a completely different methodology or way of deploying the application. But when you're doing the XML, unfortunately, this is expected. Okay, now that we accepted the remote update for all 8 errors, we're ready to commit, meaning, yes, we went and parsed through the XML, we found 8 errors, you chose to accept those remote updates. Do you want me to install the application? And the answer is yes. We're going to commit update set, and this is going to take, I think, 1 or 2 minutes, and then we're ready to go to configure the actual application. So copying update set XML, and let's see how long it takes. And I'm also looking at the chat here, just making sure no questions. If there's any questions, hopefully the chat is there. Perfect. Thank you. All right, we're at 93%, 99%. I can tell you from earlier versions of the ITSM plugin, this used to take 20 minutes, believe it or not. And compared to the 8.x ITSM plugin, it takes literally 2 or 3 minutes, and basically you're done. Let me pop that chat out. Perfect. Okay. Cool. 99, committing update set. Running child progress. All right, it's creating all the tables. Okay. Well, since it's slow today, it's taking a little bit longer, but again, it's not going to take 20 minutes. I can guarantee you that. All right, looks like we're good to go. So you can see here, succeeded 100% in 2 minutes. This used to take 20 minutes. All right, awesome. So let's go ahead and close. And we can see now if we go out from here and go back, we can clearly see that the application state is committed, and this is exactly what you want to see. Now we're ready to move on and actually install the app, configure the plugin itself. So let's do that. All right, so let's see here, configuring section 5. What we're doing here right now is going and installing, configuring the ITSM application that we just installed. All right. So first thing first, we need to create the ServiceNow users. All right. And what we're going to do is, for this specific scenario, I'm going to create 3 users. ITSM admin, representing the ITSM admin, and 1 and 2 users representing the users. So here there is a, in table 5-1, gives us a preview of the roles and responsibility, roles based on the responsibility, the roles that you can give both the application admin, or the plugin admin, and the plugin user, right? All right, so let's go ahead and go back to my favorites here. Remember, I have actually saved my system security users. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to add a new user. And the first user I'm going to add is ITSM _ admin. I'm going to just simply copy that. Just copy it over. Provide a password. And again, set my time zone. And I'm ready to go. So this is 1. So we created ITSM _ admin. And then I'm going to create 2 users representing the users, the VRA ITSM plugin application user. So let's go ITSM _ user 1. And I'm going to copy this across the board, password, and set my time zone and hit submit. And then do it again for ITSM user 2. All right, and then password, set my time zone, and submit. All right, so now if I search for ITSM, I have ITSM admin, which is going to represent our application admin, or ITSM 8.3.1 application admin. It's going to be this guy. And then we have ITSM user 1 and 2. That's going to be our ITSM application end user. All right, who's going to use the portal, the service portal, or use the user portal. One important note that I forgot to mention is that the default behavior in ITSM 8.3.1 is that the classic UI and the native service portal are the default portal. If you guys are aware of the older version, and if you read my blog on ITSM 8.2, we had something called user portal. And the user portal was our own portal with our own entitlement, which is completely different. You can still use that in ITSM 8.3, but you would have to configure the plugin to use it, since it's not going to be configured by default out of the box. What's going to be configured default out of the box is the usability of the native service portal in ServiceNow. We will go, and after we do everything and test the deployment and look at the service portal, we will go and configure the user portal just to show you how we can do that. All right, so stay tuned for that. All right, so let's go ahead and give these these required roles. The ITSM admin, I'm gonna simply click on it, scroll down to the roles, edit the roles, and let's take a look at what we need. Catalog admin, this one here, agent admin, X underscore, it'll show you both the catalog admin and the catalog VRA. Let me blow this up here so you can see what I'm selecting. So these are the two. And then one more here is CMDB read underscore read is also required. Now, one important information missing in the documentation that I found out is that in our session here, I'm going to make the ITSM admin an approver as well. So we were going to add him in the approver group later on, right? So keep that in mind, because we will require an additional role for the approver, and I'm not configuring that on purpose right now. So right now, these are the minimum based on the documentation, okay? So I'm gonna save this, and then I'm gonna move on to the other users. So if we just take this to the side, okay, that's not what I wanted. Here we go, to the side. We're gonna go to the ITSM user 1 and 2 and give them both end user and CMDB read. So let's do that. Scroll to roles, edit on the ITSM user, look for X underscore. Right away you'll see catalog admin and end user for the application, and we're gonna add the end user, and then look for CMDB underscore read. That's one. Save it, go back and hit ITSM user 2. And there's a reason why I am creating 2. You will see later on. And then edit. And I'm going to, again, go into X underscore, give this guy an end user and the CMDB underscore read, and save. All right. So based on the documentation, we've configured an application admin and an application end user. Awesome. And this is all the procedure we went through here. They're documented. Now, in ServiceNow, when we installed the application created 2 groups. These groups are called vRealize Automation Approval Group and vRealize Automation Support Group. The approval group, out of the box, it's not populated, it's empty. So now if I go to system security groups, which is, again, I've added it to my favorites, and look for, just type in the word vRealize, you're gonna see these 2 groups that the documentation talks about. If we go to the approval group and we look at the group members, it's empty. Because it's empty and we did not add any user, to the approval group, the request is gonna get auto approved. It's not gonna just sit there and wait for somebody to approve it. If you want to trigger the approval, there are 2 steps. First, you need to define who is the approver, right? And for us, we're going to edit this group membership, and we're gonna say the approver is the ITSM admin for now, okay? Of course, this can be a group, or it can be, you can put all the users here, but I'm sure you can have a group in ServiceNow that basically groups all the approvers that needs to approve, and so one of them can approve it. Anyway,
So we added the ITSM admin as the approver. The other group is called support group. What that means, if the user ends up selecting a catalog items from the service portal and it fails for whatever reason on the VRA side, what the ITSM plugin is going to do is going to create a ticket in ServiceNow, and whoever is in the support group is going to be assigned those tickets. So let's go in here, and this is the support group for the ITSM application. So these guys are going to be assigned these tickets or have access to tickets for any deployment failure, so they can look at what exactly happened. Again, for this session, we're going to also select the admin, and hopefully we don't get any deployment failures, because if we don't get deployment failures, we can't see those tickets. And I'm going to add ITSM admin. Just keep that in mind. So repeat steps 2 to 6 to add more users to the required group. Now, one thing is missing here, and really important, because I've spent quite a couple of hours waiting on an approver, but the ITSM admin never seen the request come in the service portal. So, and then I found out that the ITSM, and in addition, and because he is the approver, we need to give him one more role. Really important that you do that. If you don't do that, the approver or the group of approvers will not even get the opportunity to approve it from the service portal, from the ServiceNow service portal. So what we need to do, go back to the ITSM. Since we added him as the approver, we need to give him another role. And this is why I did not add the role initially, so you are aware of it. So what we need to give him is approval_user. This, unfortunately, and we will be updating the documentation for 8.4, but for now, this is required. This is something that you need to add to the approver as a role. Otherwise, they will not be able to approve. All right. So that's done. We did the approval group and support group, and now we're ready to go to configure our vRealize automation on-prem version. So there are the ITSM application supports 2 endpoints, one being VRA on-prem and one being VRA Cloud. All right. So now that the application is configured, I can go basically to the filter navigator and simply type in vRealize. And you can see now we have a menu called vRealize automation. Right away, I'm going to add all of it to my favorites. So if I go to my favorites, I have a section here in my VRA automation. And we're going to go in and manage the endpoints so we can create our endpoint. So here in manage endpoint, this is where you're going to go in and create the endpoints for your VRA instances. If you're using VRA Cloud, you're going to do it here. If you're using VRA on-prem, you're going to do it here. For our purpose today, we're going to use the on-prem version that I have here. And you can see I have a version of VRA here that I logged into. I'm going to sign out. Here's the URL on my home lab. This is running in my data center on-prem. And this is the instance of VRA that I want to integrate with. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. We'll hit new. And first thing, we're going to give it a name. So this is going to be VRA 8, representing that it's on-prem. You can give it whatever name you want. I only have one in my home lab. So this can be VRA production, dev, whatever the case may be. And then the mid server, and since this is VRA on-prem, because it says vRealize automation, and the other one is the vRealize automation cloud, which is the SaaS form factor or the SaaS version of that. Okay, so because we're telling this endpoint that you need to connect to on-prem, it's asking me, hey, what mid server do I need to go through to reach out to this VRA appliance or VRA instance? I'm going to say, well, the mid server that we've configured, which is the one that I have here that is already up, and initially when we started the session today. And then the host URL. It says URL here. Do not forget the entire thing. So we can go back here and copy the entire thing. Go back here, and this is the URL of my instance, my Vra instance. All right. And the username and password. Now, in the documentation, it says that this user must have the following roles, right? And it does not require any specific roles in ServiceNow, which is true. So I've created an account called ServiceNow. It can be an Active Directory if you want to, but I chose to get it local. And it has to have project administrator, and it has to have service broker administrator, and it needs to have an organization owner orchestrator. Now, if I go to VRA, log in with my admin, right? First thing first, under the identity and access management, I have an account called ServiceNow. I have created a built-in account, but this can be an Active Directory that you bring in from your Active Directory and add it here. The main thing that you need to be aware of, that this account has to be an org owner. And on the service broker side, which is the self-service portal, you have to have also an administrator. That's step one. So organization owner, service broker, which is the self-service portal on VRA, needs to be you need to be an administrator. Now inside Cloud Assembly in VRA, depending on the projects that you want to import content from or blueprint from, that project, if we go to the infrastructure here, that project needs to have a project administrator. That account needs to be a project administrator in any projects that you want to bring into ServiceNow. So for example, you might have 10 projects, but only 2 of those projects you want to interact, or you want them to be imported into ServiceNow. To do that, all you have to do is you want to make sure under user that the ServiceNow account is added with the administrator role, right? So if I just expand here so you can see, the ServiceNow is added here to this project. This project is called VMware Lab. This can be HR, development, team 1, team 2, etc., R&D, whatever the line of business is. So project is just a collection of users representing a line of business or a group of users who wants to consume content or blueprints that you've put together to provide services or provision services. All right, so it's added here. Again, if I had other VMware, other projects created on this instance, and I want to bring them into ServiceNow, I would need to take this user and add it to any other projects where I want to import to ServiceNow. Okay, so this is all this is saying here in terms of the requirements and what permissions and roles that this service account or integration account that I'm using. Awesome. So that being said, I already have the service account with the right, so we're gonna go click ServiceNow, give it the user, ready to go, boom, validate and save. And what that is going to do is gonna start importing all the elements like blueprints, and you can see here, it took us to the job queues, right? So remember, in the vRealize automation, we have managed endpoints, but if you scroll down, you also have something called job queues. So we were just literally got redirected to job queues. And if I continue to click on the filtering, you'll see 21, and there's a lot of things coming in from the VRA or for the VRA 8 endpoint, which is really a good thing because that just tells me that the user is okay, it has all the right or required privileges, etc., and is available to. So I want to wait here 1 or 2 minutes until this is complete, and I'll take a look at the Q&A. Richard asking, so I'm aware that XML file on a developer instance is not supported. However, are there any differences in the available feature between the XML dev instance and the store store installed plugin and a full ServiceNow. No, there is no differences. It's the same application. The only thing is that, again, like I mentioned, because I don't have access to a production instance and I don't have access to high credentials, I cannot push the application from store. But if I did, believe me, I would have demonstrated that. Unfortunately, the only way for me right now is to actually use developer instances. So since I have the XML, this is what I have to go through to do this. But there is no differences. You're not losing anything. You're actually looking at the same application. All right, so keep filtering here. Oh, no records to display. That quick. Of course, this is going to vary from customer to customer. My instance only had like 10 blueprints in one project. But if you're importing a bigger instance of VRA where you have hundreds of projects and thousands of blueprints, this is going to take a while. So, okay, we're ready to go. So let's take this to the side. So we added the configuration for on-prem. And there are a few instructions here in terms of notes. Just simply saying that all the catalog items requests that get requested from the ServiceNow are serviced by this integration user that we did, which is the ServiceNow user, or the local. I should not have called it ServiceNow because it's going to be confusing, but it's a local account that has access to VRA, that is an org owner, organization owner, service broker owner, and project administrator for any project that I want to import to ServiceNow. So all the deployments that's happening or is going to happen from the service portal in ServiceNow is going to be labeled, or the ServiceNow account or the integration account is going to be the owner of these deployments on the VRA side. But on the ServiceNow side, it's going to be the ServiceNow user who instantiated the request. He's going to be the owner on the ServiceNow side. This is achieved by correlating the email addresses. Thank you, Roberto, for subscribing. This is going to be achieved by the correlating of the email address. So very important note here, if you're using different identity sources, you want to make sure that the email address for the user on each of those entity services is identical. I mean, a user cannot have one mail address on one Active Directory or identity source and a different email address. Otherwise, ServiceNow is going to treat it to two different users. Create day two policy. I'll talk about that right now. You can create a day two policies for the integration user as a safety net. If you want to add or restrict or limit the policy of what this integration user can do in VRA. Remember, once the user is once the deployment is done, we will be able to take day two operation in Service Portal, and which I will demo. But if there's any need to restrict this service account or integration user day two action capabilities, we can do that by creating a policy in ServiceNow specifically for the ServiceNow user. When you add that, when you create that policy, you want to make sure that the user is added to the deployment criteria. So when you create a policy in VRA, you can say, I want to create a policy, and this is the user that I want to apply the policy to. And that criteria would be deployed by ServiceNow, which is the account. All right. There's a section here for how this would work on-prem, which we just did. One thing here quickly to note around the Quebec support. This is new. Again, I'm not a ServiceNow expert by any means, but if you are using Quebec, just be aware that ServiceNow has enhanced security with the TLS mid-server certificate check policies. So if the VRA on-prem version has untrusted certificate connection, the connection will be refused. And there is a workaround here in terms of what you need to do on your mid server. So you have to actually modify the TLS mid-service certificate check policy and disable the check for untrusted certificate to connect them in security. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to connect from a Quebec from your mid server to a Quebec based edition. All right. Since we're using Paris, I don't have to worry about that right now. So the manage endpoint, like I mentioned, you have to do when you create one. If I do select the vRealize Automation Cloud, as you can see, the URL is already there, right? And just give it a name and the refresh key. The refresh key is actually, and actually I have a slide I can share with you guys here from my older blog around the, let me see here, this section. Here, this is it. So what you want to do is you want to set up an API token for Vra Cloud, right? In the cloud services, VMware Cloud Services, when you create an API token, the refresh key is required to do that registration, like just we did with the ServiceNow integration user. This refresh key must have the following roles. It has to be an org owner, and it has to be a service broker administrator, right? There is a link that I can make part of the description below in terms of what are the steps that I need to do to create this refresh key on the Vra Cloud side. But that's all you need to do really. As you can see here, there's no requirement for you to add a project admin like we did with the on-prem, right? So it's going to bring in all projects regardless. Okay, so let's go back here, cancel out of this since I'm not going to do the Vra Cloud endpoint. We've created the endpoint. We registered the on-prem. What are we doing next is configuring and using the service portal. All right, so the first one, first thing first, the new service portal, or not new, the native service portal in ServiceNow is going to use something called user criteria for service portal. All right, so let's go ahead and see what that is. So if I go back into my favorites, you will see I have a section here under service catalog called user criteria. And unfortunately, there's not a lot much here in the documentation around that. They're assuming that you're pretty much know what you're doing in ServiceNow and you know what these user criteria are and how you can apply them to user. But what we're doing here with user criteria is basically controlling the accessibility of categories and catalog items in the service portal, who sees what. And really to do this, and I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible. The user criteria, I need to create one for the users that I created, right? This is something that we did not deal with when we were using the user portal in 8.2, ITSM 8.2. So to really make this simple, I'm gonna just create a user criteria for the individual user criteria for the 3 users that I created, just to make it as simple. But user criteria is a criteria, right? So you can say, this represents all users or all groups or any user with this role or part of this company or part of this location. So really it's a collection of user based on a membership criteria. I'm making this super simple. I'm gonna go and create one for admin, ITSM admin. And to make this simple, I'm gonna call this user UC dash user criteria ITSM admin. Again, to make things simple. And I'm going to explicitly say that the member of this user criteria is the ITSM admin. So now I'm going to look him up. I'm going to add him here. And I'm going to submit this. I can basically say, here is a user criteria for the ITSM users and base it on all the roles, right? I can do that. But the reason I'm doing that, you'll see later in terms of why I'm doing it. So let's go ahead and create one also for user criteria dash ITSM user 1. And I'm going to look him up and add him here. And then do a third one called user criteria dash ITSM user 2. And I'm going to go and add him here, user 2. Submit. Now, if I search for user criteria, I have admin. Let me blow this up. I have admin, I have user 1, and I have user 2. Okay. What we're doing here is this is just a group, a user criteria group. Now, what we're doing with this is basically saying, who do we want to apply this to? And this is what the documentation says. The next step here is that you have to assign the user criteria to items or categories. Categories here in this context is the projects, right? Just really make sure this can be applied to categories, but remember a project, when we actually did the import, when we did the validate and import, when we created the endpoint to VRA 8.4.1 instance that we have in the lab, we had a project. I know it's called project, but it's really, at the end of the day, this is a category, right? And this is what so I'm not going to apply this on a item by item basis. By default, when you're a member of a project, you have access to what you're entitled to, which is everything within that project, right? And we're going to do exactly the same here. So to do that, all right, we're going to click on the project. So basically we went to the vRealize automation, went down to projects. And then if I scroll down, first thing I need to do here, I'm going to need to edit this record. To do that, I got to click here. So you see a note here, this record in VMware application, but global is the current application scope right now, right? So one thing I need to do here is, let me blow this up, is I need to do a couple of things. First, actually, let me see if I need to do a couple of things. I'm going to change the scope to the application. You actually need to do that, right? So I'm going to scroll all the way down and select my ITSM 8.3.1. Now that message is gone, and then I have access to new and edit in each of those categories. What I really interested in here is available for, right? And I'm only going to make this available for, I'm going to edit this. I'm going to say this is going to be available for ITSM. This is going to be, and this is where I got a bit confused also. Remember, we're using user criteria. So we need to use user criteria that represents those users to make it available for. So usually in a production environment, I would think that you would create a user criteria for the project and put all the users in that project and use user criteria. But the reason I'm showing you 1 and 2 is the minute I say I am adding user 1 and making this available to user 1, right? ITSM user 1 automatically will make it not available for any other users, right? So that's the first thing. So now user 2, if I want to give user 2 access to this project, I would have to also do the same thing for user 2. And let me explain. Let me show you what I've just done here. Let me hit update. One other thing that you have access to from here is the, which we will talk about, is the service portal. So if I type here as a system administrator, okay? If I type into the menu here, service portal, you see these 2 links here. Let me, for now, just add them to my favorites. Service portal home, service portal configuration. Okay, awesome. Now let's go ahead and impersonate ITSM user 1. So ITSM user 1, which we just configured and made him available, leveraging the user criteria to projects, VMware Lab. I'm gonna impersonate myself and log in as ITSM user. And then the minute I go in here, wait for the menu to go in, right? I'm gonna change the link here and SP for service portal. right? And if I click on it, that's going to take me to the service portal for ServiceNow. In here, as you can see, I'm ITSM user 1. And if I go to catalog, I'm going to see this popular item, but I want to click or browse by categories. And then now, in addition to all the categories that I have access to, I have access to 2 more. VRA Actions, which has deployment actions and resource actions. Deployment is a higher level. A deployment might have more than one VRA resource, right? So more than one VM. And then I have VRA items. And because I've made this available to ITSM User 1, ITSM User 1 is able to see VMware Lab as a category or as a project. And if I click on it, I'm able now to see all the 9 or 10 application that I gave him access to. So I can request a cloud agnostic base. We'll come to that. But what I want to really show you here, and again, you'll see me do this a little bit weird. So I went to the service portal by doing /sp when I logged into the, and then I'm going to remove this, click enter to go back to the original ServiceNow. And then I'm going to end my impersonation. It's just so, a bit faster for me, like doing it this way, right? All right, so I'm back to system administrator, and now I'm going to impersonate user 2, ITSM user 2. And this is, you'll know why I actually had to create 2 different users so I can show you this. All right, I'm logged in as user 2. Let's go to its service portal, so /sp on top. And if we go catalogs, if we browse categories, boom, I don't have access to VRA items. Like I cannot request anything because I didn't make it available for ITSM user 2, right? And this is really what I wanted to, so let me remove the SP, go back to the ServiceNow service management and end the impersonation so we can continue this, okay? So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do back to my, where is it? Projects. And I'm going to make it available for ITSM user just like I did for ITSM user 1. So let's go here, edit this. And while we're here, let's also do, remember what I'm looking for is user criteria, right? Not the actual users. The user criteria membership includes these users, right? Remember that. So I'm gonna add these 2, IDM and these 2 user groups. So now my ITSM admin, my user 1 and my user 2, they're all able and capable to go and request catalog. So let's go ahead and request our first deployment. All right. So let's go ahead as the impersonation. Let's go to user 1. All right. Switch to the service portal, SP. I am able to use the classic UI, by the way, which you can still configure. By default, you can use the ServiceNow classic UI or the service portal, depending on what you use in your organization. Right now, I'm just demoing the SP, which seems a little bit more professional, more smoother, etc. So now I'm going to go to catalog as ITSM user. I'm going to click on categories. And I'm going to go items, and I'm going to say, oh, I have access to VMware Lab project. This can be HR, accounting, development team, whatever. But anything that is published in the service portal or a service broker in VRA for this project is going to be available to me. Let's go ahead and look at, for example, something like cloud agnostic base. While I'm loading this page here, I'm going to just show you on the VRA side, what does that blueprint look like? So if I'm going to go here, I'm going to go to service broker. By the way, the blueprint is already created and it's already entitled. And this is the blueprint. If I was a user who only have access to VRA service broker, I'm going to go in and request it from here. Now this catalog item, cloud agnostic base, has an active custom form. The plugin supports custom forms. Not just that, I've actually created for this demonstration created a tab here in the custom form, right? To show you that I can make this a lot more user friendly. So you can absolutely use the out of the box request form, but if you want to massage and make things more simpler and maybe create tabs like here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3, you can actually create that with custom form. In addition to that, I've also linked and created some drop down menu that are backed by VRO actions, by vRealize orchestrator action. What does that mean? Meaning I created something here just for, demonstration purposes, food type. And when I click on this food type, it's going to tell me, hey, do you want fruits or vegetables? This can be which data center you want to provision to. And it's going to bring that list from vRealize orchestrator. And based on the user selection, it's going to determine the content of the second menu. Okay, what network? Based on fruits, here's the fruits: apple, banana, cherry, date, eggplant. If I change this to vegetable, it's going to again run the VRO action and take the vegetables as an input, or could be a data center, and it's going to spit out the clusters that I have within that data center. See what I'm trying to say here? Those things can be created with custom forms, and those drop-down menu fields can be backed by vRealize orchestrator action to get that and populate that content. Why am I saying this here? Because the service portal works perfectly and support perfectly those kind of things. One, using custom forms, and two, using drop-down menu that are backed by vRealize orchestrator actions. All right, so let's go ahead and see here. Let's go ahead and give this a deployment. So I'm just gonna go say, and this is ITSM user 1. All right. And I can give it a description. I'm part of project so-and-so, which is very similar to if I go here and in the general section and give it a name, select my project, my environment that I want to provision to, what is the workload size, small, medium, large, operating system, Linux or Windows, and then how many workloads within this deployment, and what type of network, existing, outbound, whatever, however you configured your blueprint. And the same thing I'm going to do, but I'm going to do it from here. Environment, I'm going to select Montreal production, which is my vSphere on-prem, which is this guy here, which got booted out because we took so long. Let me basically log in here real quick. All right, and let's see. So here's our access. We're going to provision a VM to Montreal cluster, which is this guy here. Here, these are declarative things that we did in the blueprint. So if we would have selected development, it will have gone to AWS. If we selected test, it would have gone to a region in Azure. These two are vSphere, so that's why I selected Montreal. Workload size, small, medium, large, exactly same, or whatever blueprint, however the blueprint is configured. I'm going to do Linux, and I'm keeping the workload 1, and then I'm doing existing. Remember the custom form in the VRA and service broker and the egg and fruit, vegetables things. Same thing here. If I select fruit, and see, this takes a minute, and it just populates and here's my sections. And if I select vegetables, again, it takes a minute. You see the no entry sign, and then you'll see the vegetables list. So again, this is just a demo to show you that this is that the custom form is supported in any fields that are backed by VRO actions, because this could be something like, hey, cost center. And cost center, I have to do a JDBC connection to a database and take the content of a table and spit it out here so the user can select something from it. So that can be done in VRA. And the ITSM application completely supports it. The only thing that you don't see here is cost. And the integration with VRA and vRealize operations allows us to run things like daily price estimate, how much this is going to cost me. And I can also click on the details. These things do not, at the moment, populate, and which is something that we supported in ITSM 7.x. But today, and with the current version of ITSM 8.3.1, costing is not something that it's going to get imported. So that's one thing that you're going to lose by by doing things by using ServiceNow as the portal and not using VRA as the portal, right? Okay, so if we go back here, we'll just select broccoli. I love broccoli. And then let's go ahead and order this. So now order confirmation. You can enable two-way checkout. It's the same way that was there for the older plugin. So we're gonna go and check out here, and we'll see that the request here is going to give it just a second. All right, and you'll see here, this is my item. Here's my request number in ServiceNow, and if I expand that, request approval is approved from ServiceNow, but now it's waiting on the approver that we gave access to the approver, right? So let's go ahead and close this for now. So I have to go back to the service management, end my impersonation here as ITSM user, and then I'm going to log in as the admin, because admin happens to be the approver, right? So ITSM admin. Remember, we did two things. We've added the ITSM admin to the approver group, and also we gave him approval _ user role. All right. So as me logged in as the ITSM admin, I'm gonna create /sp here, and look at that approval. I have one. If this user had no approval _ user, you would never seen this tab here, approval, and a number, the approval that is available to the ITSM admin. So let's go ahead and say view all approvals. Here you go. You can click on the request item. This is the native ServiceNow request item. So if I click on it, it's going to take me right into the page. It's going to show me all the properties, all the stream or activity flow that went, and I can reject or approve. Let's go ahead and approve it. All right. Give it a second. I think it was approved. So if we go back and get out of here and go back to the service management, end the impersonation of the ITSM admin, and go back as the user. And I'm just going back and forth here just to represent, the two personas. And you can see here, this is my item, and it was approved, right? And right now it's being, waiting on the vRealize VRA request. So if I switch to Service Broker, and if I go to the deployment, here's our request. ITSM user 1 is just provisioned, or still provisioning, a VM. If I click on it, you'll see I have a VM. It's called Vra Cloud VM 408, and it's going to the Montreal cluster. If I go to the vCenter, just give it a second here, and we should see the cloning of the VM happens in the Montreal cluster momentarily. Let's give it a chance here. Let's go again to here. I'm going to change to the service portal. And as the ITSM user who requested this, I can go and look at my requests. I can see they're still open. And if I click on here, I can see the stages of what happened to the, and here it says approved already. You can see ITSM admin approved it, and now it's actually processing the request. So here we're still waiting on, this is the history of the VM in VRA. So you can see here, create is in progress from a VRA perspective. And if I go to the vCenter, here is our VM being cloned at the moment, right? So, great job. So we did the configuration, and we've provisioned the VM and directly from ServiceNow into the into the destination or on vSphere. And this is of course supported for any blueprints that VRA creates today, whether it's a cloud agnostic. That means the blueprint can be provisioned to vSphere, AWS, Azure, or if it's an X as a service blueprint, meaning anything as a service. If I created a blueprint leveraging the extensibility available to me in VRA, whether I'm creating a blueprint for any IT operations, whether it's creating a mailbox for a user or onboarding an employee, and I want that to be a blueprint available to me in ServiceNow, you absolutely can do that. All right, so one thing here, we'll wait on this to complete. And one thing I want to show you is that if we go back to the home screen as the ITSM user, I don't have any deployment views. Like I don't have a deployment view. So if I go to my requests, all I can see is the request here, and it's still being open. It's not completed until the VM is completely configured. Right now, the VM is being powered on, right? And it's going to take its course of action, and it's going to get an IP and everything. Once that's completed, we're going to look at the VM. Let's go here. Okay, so still I have no IP, and the VM is booting. So let's actually bring the remote console just to keep an eye on it. All right, VM is booting up. While we're waiting on that, so we created the user criteria, and we've kind of created a user criteria for every user just for the demonstration purposes. But this is usually would be something that would represent the users that you want to make them available to a specific project in the service portal on the ServiceNow side. And then we assign that user criteria, of course, to the category here, which really means the project. By the way, you can do this on item by item if you wanted to. Like if there's a specific item that you only want to make it available and not everything, you can go and instead of us going to the VM, to the project level and saying make this available to this group or to this user criteria, you can go to the item and you can be very explicit into what items you want to make available. But remember, the minute you make one thing available to one user, it's going to only make it available for that user unless you configure the rest of the the users to access that same blueprint or other blueprints. All right, so a couple of things here while we're waiting on this. A couple of things that I'm gonna take you through is let me take this to the side here. Let's go out from the service portal context. Let's do impersonation so we can go back to the system administrator. This is some of the service portal prefixes. The ServiceNow administrator must ensure that there is a prefix. That prefix is under the vRealize automation. Again, this is why the importance of having you to add these under favorites. And in vRealize automation, system properties, so right here, so we go here in system property, we have a property called x_vmw_cloud service portal prefix. You want to make sure it's set to SP, and this is why this is the default. Usually, and as you will see later, when we actually switch from service portal to user portal, which what we supported as default in 8.2 or earlier, we will have to change this later on. So you want to make sure that this is set to SP, and as you can see, it is set to service portal. Also, we have a section here that we will go through to configure a deployment widget leveraging the design portal in service portal. So what that means is we're going to make a deployment view available to the user so they can see all their deployment listed, because right now they don't have that until this point. And this is going to be our next task to do. So looks like the VM is up and running. It has an IP. And if I go to service broker, it looks like the create success. So the VM is completed. As you can see, the deployment ITSM user 1. So if we go back to ITSM user 1, there's two things I need to demonstrate here. I want to show you that what happens or what does the user see before you configure the deployment widget, and then how is he going to do or apply day two operations. So we're logged in here as the ITSM user. We're going to go to the service portal, and we're going to go to my requests, and I don't have any requests, right? I don't have any requests. If I go to the catalog, I can go and request, but where is my item? Where is the VM that I provisioned? And this is where the deployment widget comes into the picture. Right now, I know I've deployed a VM, but I can't see it on the service portal, right? So that way, and this is why this was a beta in 8.2. Because in 8.2, ITSM 8.2, the user portal was the default portal, not the service portal, And then, so right now it's the opposite. For me as a user who just deployed a VM that wants to do an action on the deployment, I have to go through this category here where it says VRA actions. And in here, I can go to the deployment actions. I can power off, power on, update, delete, change lease. So if I want to power off the deployment that I just provisioned, I can go and click on this, and it will tell me, okay, what deployment, and then it's going to show me the deployment that I just did, which is the ITSM user 1. We called it ITSM user 1. That's the name of the deployment, right? And now I can go and order this power off action, just like if I am ordering, a VM or a pencil or whatever the case may be. I'm actually ordering the action to be applied on the deployment, which is not something I would want to do, right? I mean, it's going to be, so there's a way. Don't worry. There is a way. And this is our next, what we need to do here. So I'm going to leave this, go here, leave this. I'm not going to order or reboot or power off the deployment, because if I say power off the deployment, it's going to power off all the VMs within that deployment. So I'm going to leave. All right. The same thing if I want to apply an action on the VM. Again, if I go to the catalog, I go to categories, and instead of going deployment action, these are the VM actions, VRA resource action within a deployment. There's a deployment level and there's a VM level. On the resource action here, I can create a snapshot on the VM. I can reboot the VM. I can reset the VM. I can resize it, etc. These are all the day two operation that is available to me. So if I want to delete here a VM, let's say, it's going to tell me what deployment, how many deployments do you have? You only have one called ITSM user 1. And then within that deployment, what resource? There's only one VM within this deployment. So you can see this can be a little bit tedious because you're kind of requesting a day two operation and then selecting the deployment and then selecting the VM within that deployment in terms of which VM do I want to apply a reboot or a resize or any day two operations that are available to me, right? All right, so that being said, let's get out of here and go back so we can end the impersonation. So we go back to the service management. We're going to leave this request, and I'm going to end the implementation. And this is where we're going to go in and configure our deployment widget. And it took me a couple of hours trying to figure this out, to be honest. And hopefully you'll find this easy when you do it. Okay, so two things. We need to be the system administrator to add this deployment widget. So I am the system administrator, and we have to be in the global application view. Right now, I'm not in the global application. Since the last thing I did when I created the user criteria, I had to switch to the ITSM application context. So let's go up, select global, take this to the side. So I am a system administrator. The scope is set to global. Now what I can do is in the service filter or the filter navigator, search for service portal and launch the service portal configuration. So I've already added these to my favorites. So you can see here the service portal configuration. Click that and it's going to get you here, right? And from here, as a system administrator, we're going to click designer. And we're going to look for a page called index. That page index in here is the service portal, right? We're going to click on the service portal and it's going to give us this canvas that's going to show us the containers, the columns, the rows. These are all constructs that are part of service portal. There are tons of videos out there that I had to go through, and which you can go through as well, around service portal designer and how to use it, etc. They have every element in this portal has a container, which is the outside of that blue line here. The minute you click on it, it tells you what it is on the top. So you can see this is a container. What we need to do is we need to create a container somewhere here and then drag and drop the widget, the deployment widget that the documentation asks us about. The easiest way to do this, first, drag a container and drop it into the service portal page. Now I have a container, a border. In that border, we can select how many columns we want. 12 means, actually this is using an OpenStrap, open source. And what this means is that it's one column across all 12 bootstraps on the page, which is 12 long or 12 columns long. This here is going to create one row, 2 columns, each one with a width of 6 bootstraps. So this one here is going to create 3 and 9. This one's going to get 9 and 3. This is going to create 3 columns. So depending on the design or layout that you want, so I drag the container. Now I'm just going to drag one column, one column, and drag it here. This column is 12 in length. And then I can go in and search for my widget, which is the deployment widget. So if I scroll down here, so we did go to the index. This is the minimum width of the column. So remember, this outer line is the container. This inner line is the column. And if I hit edit, you can see that these screens, you can actually set it to the size here. So you can use these. This is the minimum. Obviously, I've selected way over the minimum, but these are the minimums. So for X small needs to be set to 12. I'm using default. Small set to 12. I'm using default. Mid is using 6. I'm using default. So everything is more than what the minimum is here. All right. Okay. So filter, we need this widget. CAS _SP _ deployment. I'm going to go in here and paste it. And here it is. That's the widget. This widget got installed when we installed the application. So I'm going to drag this and drop it into the 112 in width column. Drop it here. Wait a second, and boom. Here's all the deployment. Remember, we're logged in here as the ITSM system or system administrator that sees everything. So even though these deployments had not been provisioned by the system administrator, they're still able to see it. But this is going to be constrained to the context of the user that's going to log in. That's all this is, this section. Now, there is another piece here that we will do on another thing, and I will point that out when we actually get to that. Before I do that, there is one question here from Richard. Can only the user who requested the server request day 2 action, or can anyone in the group associated with the project request a day 2 action on the server someone else requested? On that statement that's available and supported in VRA, but when it comes to ServiceNow, that's not possible today. That's not possible today. in the service portal. So it's a complicated answer, I know, but again, in ITSM 8.3.1, the default is the ServiceNow service portal, which does not support what you just told me, what you just asked. So only the user who deployed can do the actions. He cannot, as a user, share that deployment with anybody else. Now, if you change from the default to using user portal, we do have that capability in the user portal where you can actually share your deployment with somebody else. Let's say you're going on vacation, you're not going to be available for the next week or so. I'm going to share my deployment with another user, so that other user can take day two actions if he needs to and access the VM as if it was me. Okay. Hopefully that's clear. Now, one more thing before we leave the service portal that I want to do is add the view and modify resource widget on the request summary page. When a user requests a VM, they're going to get a summary request showing them the stages that that request is going through. And there's no way of them going back to the deployment widget. So what we're doing here is adding simply a short link that I will point out once we get to it. But this is how you do it here. We're still in the service configuration. We're going to go on the designer. So I'm going to go to the service portal. I'm going to look for a page called order_status and really target the request summary. So select and open request summary page. So I'm going to click on this one. Here it says select the bottom column to insert. And this is where I got confused. I have a container, I have a column, and then this is the column, but it's not empty. And it says here, if an empty column is not available, you can insert one. So let's go ahead and insert a column here. To insert a column, I have to do two things. I have to take a container, create a container under here. So that's my container, and then I'm going to drive and put a column in it. Right? This, believe me, this took me a while. Let me see what I can do here. Oh, sorry, yeah, so we created a container, and I'm going to drive this and put it here in the container. So I'm creating one column. So I'm basically creating an empty column because one was not there. Now that this is created, I have a place where I can drag this widget. So in the filter widgets, so we're going to go in and look for this guy, and we're going to drag it and drop it into the column, and boom. You have now cast_return to deployment, no preview available here because it's a functional link and it's nothing here to display really. But you'll see what I'm talking about when I get to it. This is all you need to do for now as a minimum, at a minimum, in the service portal designer. So let's close this and get out of there completely. And let's go ahead now and see the changes that we made. And let's go in and impersonate ITSM user 1. All right. So I'm going to go in and go to the service portal. And remember, ITSM user 1 deployed a deployment called ITSM user, and voila. We have now VRA deployments and our deployment here, very similar to what would you see on the service portal if I was logged in as the ITSM user, which does not exist here, by the way. And this is really the beauty of this, is that the deployment is really owned by the integration user, which is ServiceNow. And here's the deployment by the ITSM user 1. But if now the ITSM user 1, when he logs in the service portal, he can see the deployment. And this is where I can go in, click on the item, right? Or click view all if you want to see all the deployments. If I had 20 or more deployments, I can go here. If I click home, I go back to the same page. There are configurations that we will touch on that will allow you to configure how many deployments you want to see in the VRA deployment widget. And when you expand view all, how many you want to see, how many deployments at one time in one page. There are two different properties that you can, but this is the nice thing about this now. I can click into the deployment as the user, and it's a lot easier for me to interact with the deployment and interact with the actions on the resources within the deployment. So here, These are the action I'm entitled to do. I can change the lease on the deployment. I can delete it. I can power it off. I can update it. And if I go to the machine, the VM, I can do things like add disk, create snapshot, power off, resize, all the out-of-the-box day-to operation available to you, as well as look at all the custom properties that is part of this deployment. Like this is the IP address. This is the account. It's being provisioned. That's the cluster, etc. The network. Here is the distributed port group that the VM is connected to. The network. Here's the IP address. Here's the MAC address. What type of IP assignment it was. It was static, not DHCP, etc. Who's the owner? Is the ITSM user one, and so forth. All these is metadata to be used, and this is really depends on the property that you include when you're creating a blueprint. Okay. So this really was all this is to this. Now let's go ahead. Any questions so far? I'm gonna just wait if there's any question. Hopefully this was helpful in terms of the service portal and what you need to do to configure the ServiceNow service portal. All right. Now, here are some of the first. Before I talk about these, I'm gonna get out of here. Go back to the service management and end the impersonation and go back to system administrator. All right. So there are some properties that you can do. So here you have a deployment limit. So you can use this. You can, like I mentioned in that deployment widget, you can see up to 5 deployments. If you want to add more deployments and you want to make the column wider, wider, not wider, sorry, higher, to include more deployment. This is before you actually click on View All. There is a property that you can go to called Deployment Limit. So if I go under my VRA and go on System Properties and search for this property, you'll see Deployment Limit, and it's already set to 5. If you want to increase that or decrease that, you can set it to whatever number you want here. That's one. Now, when you go in and actually say all deployments on the widget, on the deployment widget, on the home screen, there is another setting, which is the window size. This window size here shows you by default 20 or up to 20 deployment on one page. If that's too many and you want to increase it, or maybe this is too low and you want to increase it, you can always go to this property here, cloud service .deployment window size. And let's search for that. And as you can see out of the box, it's set to 20. And if I need to change it, I simply click on the link and go and change the value to whatever value after I edit this record. Because again, this record needs to be done into, you have to be in the scope, in the application scope to be able to edit these values. So I got to go in and change from global to ITSM application 8.3.1 and change it to whatever value I want. Another one is users can view 5 deployments. We did that already. And this, okay, so deployment counts in deployment list. We did, it was 20. And then the deployment counts in the deployment widget, which was 5. And we saw that already. So let's skip that. Okay, so this was pretty much everything that has to do with the service portal. This section here is just about usability, which we did already when we logged in as the ITSM user. After that, we have a list here of things that we can configure if we wanted to disable the service portal and activate the user portal, which happened to be the default in the ITSM 8.2 version and earlier. So if you really want to go back to user portal and what it can do, I would recommend looking at the group of videos and my older blog on ITSM 8.2. It's really exactly the same functionality. Nothing changed there. So if you actually go to vmwarelab.org and go to the ITSM. It's the first and the most recent blog that I did back in December. And in here, I talk about there's a whole. This is going to take you to the entire video list in terms of
Hello, everyone.
setting up and doing the orchestration. So there's a whole lot of videos here around the use cases, prerequisite deployment. At that time with ITSM 8.2, again, like I mentioned, the default was to use the user portal, and in 8.3 and higher going forward, the classic UI and the service portal, which is native to ServiceNow, is going to be the default. So if you ever need to go back to the user portal, there is a section in the documentation starting at page 30 is if you want to configure the user portal instead. And really comes down to a couple of properties, one being this guy here. So if we go to x_VMW, copy that, go to system properties, and one thing here, it says true. So this is the UI. It needs to be set to true. So set the value to true. It is true here. And then when you scroll down, you have to do a couple of things here, following the steps to configure everything. So user portal become the default. The minute you configure my apologies. This section is not for user portal. My apologies. This, in case the administrator has configured the user portal and wants to go back to service portal, like something about the outline of this of the guide is a little bit. You have to be really exactly know what section you're in. So reconfiguring the service portal, in case you did the user portal or configured this the ITSM to use the user portal instead, and you want to go back to the default, this is what you need to do. Change a couple of properties, set these back to true, etc. I would have expected the user portal to be the first section before we actually go into here. There's also a section here for the service catalog and using native UI, which some people call it classic UI. All right. There's a section here if you want to use that. So that means I would have to go to the self-service. So here I'm going to go into self-service. I honestly have not worked with this a lot. So let's add this to service catalog. And here I have access to this add content. And this is where I can go in, look for VRA items, and then simply drag the VRA items down to here. And then it will be available to me as a service catalog. So let's actually do it. So I'm in the service portal, system administrator. Here's my VRA items. I'm going to drop them here. And also here's my VRA resources. Let's see first, sorry. Let me explode this. Cancel. I have not added anything. Hit the plus. Go scroll down. VRA items. And add it here. So I added it. And then go to items. And I added it. So I have the items and the resource actions right now here on top. And based on your user criteria, again, you'll be able to click on the VRA items, click on your project, and look at all the, like, this is no comparison to how the service portal looks. It's a lot smoother. This is like ugly if you want my opinion, really. Anyway, so this is another way here if you want to use the native UI or classic UI. And if you wanted to do actions, you can add this, and then you're going to go through the same process. Okay. All right. So so let's take this to the side, And this is what I just did here. It's actually documented in section 7. And then if I scroll down is to go to the section, and this is the section I actually wanted to actually talk about before. If you did go to to section 8 and you did want to use the user portal, you have all the steps here to actually go through and configure the user portal. And this is really super easy. It's all controlled by the system properties. So here we go into this property here and set this to false. Default is true. So let's do that. So let's go ahead and go to our favorites, go to system properties and copy this property. Remember, the minute we configure this, we disable the service portal. All right. So now if I go into here, paste, oh, sorry, not here. Paste. Here's true. We're going to click on this. We have to be in the application scope. So I'm going to go in here and scroll all the way down to the vRealize ITSM and change this from true to false. Oops. And I'm going to update. So that's number 1. And then delete the parent category value. In the search, we'll search for this category now. Parent category. Open the record and in value and delete the existing value. So this is the parent category. We're going to click on it. And we're going to delete this value here. And we're going to hit update. And then we're going to bring out a list. So we're going to add the VMware Cloud Automation SysID. So to do that, we're going to search for this item, sc_catalog.list in the filter navigator. If I click in here, notice that this is the table that we got. And then right click on where it says VMware Cloud Automation Catalog, which is the first one. Right click on it and then go to copy SysID. So we copied that. And now go for system properties again. So we're going to scroll down under vRealize Automation, system properties. And because I have the SysID copied, I don't want to copy from so I'm just going to type it in, x_vmw_cloud_service.cas_catalog_sysid, enter. x_vmw cloud service catalog sysid. I'm going to click on that and then I'm going to open the record, delete the existing value and paste the one that I copied from the previous step. And I'm going to hit update. All I have to do now is go to the schedule jobs, which is right here, and run the Vra Import Project. So give it a second. Here we go. And I'm running Vra Import Project. Here's our import project. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to say execute now. Again, we're back here to the scheduled script execution, but I want to make sure that the job queue is completed. So you see we're processing some items here. And I'll give it 1 second here to make sure, because this is a completely different tables and it's going to bring in and import the projects. And then we're going to create an entitlement. Just like, and this is back to the early days of 8.2, ITSM 8.2. And let's see here, almost done. All right, it's finished. Now, if we look at our vRealize automation menu, we need entitlements, and it's not showing here. So if I go back here and type in vRealize again, now I have, where is it? In Manage Entitlement, right here. So I have two different vRealize automation menu. They're both called vRealize automation.
It would have been nice for them to be named accordingly, like by version number, or service portal versus user portal. So here what we need to do now, if we do and try to go to the service portal, it's not going to work. Take my word for it, because it's disabled right now. But the user criteria that we used for the service portal approach is not going to work here. So we need to create a new entitlement. So let's create a new entitlement for ITSM user 2, right? So let's go and create ITSM user 2. And here it says, what endpoint do you want to provision this to? So it's going to be VRA, because it's the only really endpoint that we registered. And this is a little bit different here, right? Here now it's asking me, okay, you're entitling the user to what project? I'm entitling it to project VMware Lab. That's the only project I have in this environment. So I'm going to select that. Okay, what item do you want to configure to? I'm going to select here I'm being very selective, right? So this is a completely different approach. I'm not using user criteria like I had to with the service portal, with the native service portal, because we are using here the portal that is provided by the application or the plugin. So now I'm going to go and select, I want cloud agnostic. What's the deployment action? So this is where it gets a little bit, I got to add these, depending on what I want to entitle the user to. I'm going to entitle him to everything, but you can be very selective in terms of what you want to give him on the deployment level. So there's 4 out-of-the-box actions, or D2 actions on the deployment: update, power off, delete, change lease, power on. And then machine actions. What can you take or do on the machine level? Well, there's a lot here. And again, unfortunately, there's not like select all and add them all in one. I actually have to go in and select each of those individually. So let's do those really quick. Suspend, create snapshots, resize, restarts. Okay, I know we stopped at restart, and then resize boot disk. Where are we? Resize disk, shut down, revert to snapshot, reset, delete snapshot, reboot, remove disk, and power off. All of that. And then, who are you creating entitlement for? I'm giving it a name. I'm entitling ITSM user 2. So here I'm going to go in and just look for ITSM user 2. Of course, in production, you would add a group and then submit. That's it. Now, if I scroll down here, I see something called user portal. And if I click it, before I click it, I'm going to log in as, impersonate myself as ITSM user 2. And in here, if I search for vRealize, add the entire list to my favorites, expand that. Here's my user portal. I'm going to log in as the ITSM user 2. And it's a completely different experience. I'm not using the service portal here, which is native to ServiceNow. I'm using the user portal provided by the plugin. Just exactly like in my previous blog when I was talking about ITSM 8.2, user portal was the default. So deployment summary, how many deployments I've done, request summary, deployment expiring soon. So I have a full dashboard here. I can request from the catalog, or I can go to the catalog page here, and automatically I'm going to see the catalog items that are entitled to me. And that's the only item, and you will only see what you explicitly entitled the user or the group of users. So I'm going to request this. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to say ITSM user 2. I'm part of this project. Environment is going to be Montreal. Operating system going to be Linux, count, etc. Existing. And the info is also supported. You remember the tab, which is coming from the custom forms with the back-end vRealize orchestrator actions. So if I select fruit, this is going to run, and it's going to get banana. And if I change to vegetables, again, it's going to run, and it's going to give me completely different content based on the input. Again, this works and supported. If I go back here, did I miss anything? The network type, existing. and the environment is Montreal, operating system is Linux, and submit. Now we submitted this as the user, and it says here waiting on approval. So if I actually click on, you see this is under request, under activities, there's an activity menu. I have one open request for the cloud agnostic, and this is the request item number, and this is the request number, and it's waiting for approval. If I click on it, it's going to tell me who is the approver. And here it's join now, waiting for approval, info, design. This is the menu. I thought it actually tells you who's the approver. It doesn't look like it says it here. Anyway, if we go back, close this, end impersonation, because remember we have to approve it, so we have to log in or impersonate the ITSM admin. And when the ITSM admin goes in and I search for vRealize, expand the menu and then go to the user portal. By the way, the approver can actually use native approval, ServiceNow approval. So they can actually look at all the open item requests and approve whatever request they see. But through the user portal, as the approver person or part of the approval group, I can see that what's waiting for me to approve. So I'm going to go in here, click on this request, and then basically looks good. I'm going to approve as the approver. All right, it's approved. So if I close this, and if I end the impersonation as the admin and go back looking as the user, impersonate user 2. And if I open my user portal, I can see now that if I go to activities, first my request summaries, what's in progress, what's completed, what failed, etc. is here. And if I go to activities, you'll see I have request approved, work in progress. So it's already been approved. It is actually being provisioned right now. So if I switch back to VRA, refresh this guy, you will see the deployment from the ITSM user leveraging the user portal instead of the native service portal. Okay. So this is going to take a minute. I don't see anything in the QA, but right now, if we try to go into the service portal, for example, as ITSM user 2, and go to the catalog and go to categories, you are not able to request any services or VMs for those project that you're a member of, because we simply did this, or the user portal is now the default. All right, if we switch to vCenter, you can see the VM 410 is being now cloned, and it's only a matter of time before you're able to see it in the service portal. So we'll just give it a minute. Okay. Let's see here. Almost there. 59%. I don't have the fastest storage. I'm actually using Synology. One thing while we're waiting on this, let's just make sure that we covered everything we need to cover in the documentation. So we create entitlement. These are all the deployment actions available to us. And if we scroll down, how to access the service portal, not the service portal, sorry, the user portal. So you go back, you search for vRealize automation and you look for user portal. And that's what's going to allow you to go in and access the deployment, system overview, the catalog, the deployments that you're going to interact with, where you're going to kind of do or execute your day 2 operations. So this is where you can view all the entitled catalog items and access them, request them, etc. And then the deployment is the list of deployments entitled to you as a user, and where you can do the day 2 operation, which we will do and show you once the deployment is complete. I think that's it for the user portal here. Resource action in here. Again, this is performed on a selected resource in terms of what you want to do. Question in the chat, what would be a use case for the service portal? This second way would appear to be better way from VRA perspective. Absolutely. Really what we're doing here, Richard, is we're just giving companies a choice. If you are already using service portal and you do not want to change the user experience, you can continue to use the service portal or the native UI or classic UI. But if this is but if you're okay with the user portal, absolutely, the user portal at this moment has a couple of advantages. One of them being, I don't know if you noticed that already or not, but once we see the deployment here, I have an ability to share resources with other users in ServiceNow, so I can share it to, to my colleague if I'm going on vacation. So something like that is still yet not available, but we are coming up. And I'm not 100% honestly sure if this user portal at one point is going to be deprecated or not. Right now, as of 8.3, the user portal is configurable. You can configure it and use it, but I have no idea. I'll follow up with the product management and the business unit to see. I think the user portal should stay. I mean, it should be an option for customer, but also you got to think about the development requirement. If we're going to focus on the service portal, which is native to ServiceNow, and if we maintain the user portal, that means we also have to maintain the development cycle on maintaining and continuing to add functionality in 2 different places. So really is something that the product management has to decide on, whether deprecate it or continue supporting it. But as of ITSM 8.3.1, you can use either or. The default is service portal. User portal is configurable still. Going forward, I am not 100% sure, but there could be a possibility that it gets deprecated. We'll have to see, to be honest. All right, so if we look at the VM is up and running. This is the new IP address. That's the VM 410. If we go back here and look at my deployments as the ITSM user 2, it might take a while for it to show up here between the VM being provisioned and then collected. The data collection happens through the mid server to be able to show it here. But once it's over, I mean, right now from a VRA perspective, the VM is up and running, as you can see in the deployment. And from vCenter is up and running. And then from ServiceNow perspective, we're still waiting for it to show up here. It usually takes 2 or 3 minutes, to be honest, from the time that the deployment is done. I'll try to maybe go out and de-impersonate and impersonation, and then log in with actually let's log in as ITSM user 1, because we already have a VM there that's been there for a while, but I don't know if it's also will need time. And if I search for vRealize automation user portal, click on that. We're logged in here as ITSM 01. We do have a deployment. Oh, cool. So as you can see, if you were using service portal for some time and then transition to user portal or back and forth, it doesn't affect the existing deployments that the user do, which is really good. So as you can see, here is my deployment.
if I go to action, I can share it if I wanted to. But yeah, so, and if I go here, I'm able to look at the VM, like click on the VM here, and be able to look at the actions. One thing I'm seeing here right now is that because this VM was originally provisioned by the service portal, it doesn't look that I can do anything from a D2 actions. So that could be a side effect. I will have to double check. It doesn't look like I can, because remember when we did this initially, we provisioned this machine or this deployment that we called ITSM user 1 through the service portal. And now that we activated the user portal, it doesn't look like I can take any actions except sharing for some reason. So if you noticed on the ITSM user deployment, if we go back the deployments, and we go to actions here, I only can share. I can't do anything. I can't delete, I can't power off, even though I am the owner of this, or ITSM user who provisioned this. So this could be a side effect. Let's close this and see if we can see impersonation and login as ITSM user 1, who actually used the user portal to provision. So that could be a big problem or an issue, because it was using two different. Now we're back to ITSM user 1. We can see our deployment that we did. If we click the action, I can do day 2 actions, as you can see. Change lease, delete, power off. I can actually do it from here. And if I log in into or click into the deployment, I can go to the VM, click on the VM. And then when you click on the VM, you have actions here and you have actions here. This is deployment actions. And this is resource actions. Since I'm clicking here and you see this blue, meaning this record is selected, I can see all the actions and I can delete, resize, and do day 2 operation from the user portal. Interesting thing that I did not know. So we'll go back, and last thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna go in here and hit actions and simply delete my deployment. We'll say thank you and submit. And right now, if I switch to VRA, I should see ITSM user 2 deployment instantly goes out and it gets deleted. All right, and if I go to VRA, we should see the VM 408 gets turned off and removed since ITSM user 2 decided to delete the deployment, right? Wait here. Okay, so create successful, item is got rid of. And if I switch back to service broker, delete in progress, as you can see, we're 2 of 5 tasks. If we go here, we should momentarily, oh, the VM is gone already. 410 is deleted. It was 410, not 408. Service overview, we have deployed summary, how many successful we created, how many closed, and deployment expiration. This is just a reminder of what's gonna be expired. Of course, VRA is gonna implement governance. And if you had lease policies and things like that, they would, the requester would know, for example, when they have to renew their lease, etc. All right, so back to the documentation. If we scroll down, I think we did the approve and reject request. Let's see, the last thing I really want to just emphasize on, in the documentation, there is a advanced configuration where you can enable two-way checkout if you wanted to. So you can request something and then go out in and request another and then submit everything together. So you need to enable two-way checkout. Super easy to do. You just simply go in and enable toggle the two-way checkout. Configuring and running import jobs. Really, you don't have to here unless there's a reason. A couple of things that you need to be aware of. Maybe watch my videos on ITSM 8.2 which was all about the user portal. These has to be executed in a specific order. I actually talk about that in my blog. Also, if you want email and ticketing properties, there's a lot of things that you can do. Like, hey, for this action, I want to send an email or do that. I don't have SNMTP or mail configured in my instance. And also, what I wanted to highlight is make sure you read the supported, unsupported functionality. This is super, super important in terms of what we can support and what we cannot support, and the limitation there for the plugin. So make sure that you take a look at that. And then at the end, if you really need to know, there are some good troubleshooting steps here, depending on the symptoms that you're experiencing. That's in the troubleshoot section. We will not go into any of those. Knock on wood, we didn't have any issues. Thank God. And then in the appendix, and if you want access to actually all the CMDB tables that we touch or we use or we create, the custom tables are used here and listed for you at the end of the documentation. So that's all I had today. Thank you so much. It's been 2.5 hours. Hopefully you found this super, super helpful. I want to thank you for those that attended, and the recording will be there available on the in the channel. With that, I really want to thank you. Hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much.